Global updates.
Welcome to the Global Updates. Bringing you the latest news from around the world, Trump slams the brakes, American cars for Americans. In a move that's sure to send shockwaves through the global auto industry, President Trump today signed an executive order mandating that all cars sold in the United States be manufactured domestically. This sweeping decree, which is a cornerstone of Trump's America First agenda, takes aim at revitalizing American manufacturing and bringing back jobs. The order has ignited a firestorm of reactions, with supporters praising its potential to boost the economy and critics decrying it as a recipe for trade wars and higher prices for consumers. One thing is certain, the American road just took an unexpected turn. The executive order, which is effective immediately, will have a phased implementation, giving automakers a specific time frame to transition to 100% US-based production. This period, however, is expected to be tumultuous, as global supply chains are upended, and manufacturers scramble to adapt to the new reality. The White House argues that the long-term benefits of increased domestic manufacturing and job creation outweigh any short-term disruptions. This bold move by the Trump administration marks a significant departure from decades of globalization in the auto industry. It signals a renewed focus on bolstering American manufacturing, even if it means potentially disrupting long-standing trade relationships and supply chains. The world is watching, and the road ahead promises to be anything but smooth. America First shifts into overdrive. Bringing back American manufacturing is no longer just a campaign slogan, but a central mission. The echoes of the past, when American factories hummed with activity and provided millions of good-paying jobs, are now being invoked as a rallying cry for a new era of industrial revival. The executive order, which stands as a cornerstone of Trump's America First policy, seeks to reverse the tide of globalization that has seen manufacturing jobs move overseas. This bold move is designed to send a clear message. The days of unchecked outsourcing and offshoring are over, and the government is taking decisive action to bring jobs back home. Trump has long argued that American workers and industries have been disadvantaged by unfair trade deals and practices. He claims that decades of poorly negotiated agreements have left American factories shuttered and workers struggling to make ends meet, while foreign competitors have thrived at the expense of the U.S. workforce. This move, according to the administration, is about reclaiming America's manufacturing dominance and putting American workers first. The hope is to restore pride and prosperity to communities that once formed the backbone of the nation's economy. The administration points to the decline of the American auto industry over the past few decades as evidence of the need for drastic action. Once the envy of the world, cities like Detroit have become symbols of industrial decline, with empty factories serving as stark reminders of what's been lost. The closure of factories and loss of jobs in this once mighty sector have had a devastating impact on communities across the country. Families have been uprooted, local economies have suffered, and a sense of uncertainty has taken hold in regions that once thrived on manufacturing. By requiring all cars sold in the U.S. to be made domestically, Trump aims to breathe new life into this struggling industry. The vision is to see American assembly lines buzzing again, blending cutting-edge technology with skilled labor to produce world-class vehicles. Critics, however, argue that the globalized nature of the auto industry makes such a move, well, impractical and potentially harmful. They warn that the interconnectedness of modern supply chains cannot be easily unraveled without serious consequences. They point out that many components and even American-branded cars are sourced from overseas, with parts coming from dozens of countries. The reality is that today's cars are international products, assembled from a complex web of suppliers. Forcing a complete shift to domestic production will disrupt supply chains and likely increase costs for both manufacturers and consumers. The transition could mean higher prices at the dealership and potential shortages as companies scramble to adapt. They also worry about potential retaliatory measures from trading partners, leading to a trade war that could harm the very economy the order seeks to boost. Tariffs and counter-tariffs could ripple through global markets, affecting not just cars but a wide range of industries. Despite the controversy, the message is clear. The Trump administration is putting American jobs and manufacturing at the forefront of its economic policy. Supporters believe this bold approach is necessary to restore American strength and independence in a rapidly changing world. Whether this gamble will pay off or backfire remains to be seen, but the stakes couldn't be higher for the American auto industry and the global economy. The coming years will reveal if this push for American-made can truly turn the tide, or if the challenges of globalization prove too great to overcome. A road divided, cheers and fears greet Trump's bold move. Across the nation, the announcement of the executive order has sent shockwaves through communities, sparking passionate debate and strong emotions on both sides of the political spectrum. The executive order has been met with a predictably divided response. Newsrooms buzz with heated discussions, and social media is ablaze with arguments both for and against the policy. The country finds itself at a crossroads, with supporters and critics voicing their hopes and concerns in equal measure. Supporters, many of them blue-collar workers in the heartland, see it as a much-needed intervention to protect American jobs and revitalize the manufacturing sector. For these workers, the executive order is more than just a policy. It's a promise that their livelihoods matter, and that the government is finally taking action to address years of job losses. They believe that by requiring cars sold in the U.S. to be made by American workers, the order will lead to a resurgence in domestic manufacturing and boost the economy. The sight of bustling assembly lines and Made in USA labels brings a renewed sense of pride and optimism to communities that have long felt left behind. For these supporters, the order represents a long-awaited victory against what they see as unfair trade practices that have sent American jobs overseas. They argue that this bold move is a necessary step to reclaim economic independence and restore dignity to American labor. They argue that for too long American workers have been disadvantaged by globalization, and it's time to level the playing field. Union leaders and community organizers rally behind the order, seeing it as a turning point that could reverse decades of decline in the manufacturing sector. The potential for new jobs and a revitalized manufacturing sector is a beacon of hope in communities that have been hit hard by economic shifts. In towns where factories once stood silent, the prospect of reopening plants and new hiring brings a sense of renewal and possibility for the future. On the other side of the aisle, critics view the executive order with alarm. Business leaders and industry analysts warn that the policy could have unintended consequences, disrupting established supply chains and creating uncertainty in the market. They warn that forcing automakers to abandon global supply chains and shift to 100% domestic production will inevitably lead to higher costs, which will be passed on to consumers in the form of more expensive cars. Families already struggling with inflation fear that buying a new car could soon be out of reach. They also fear that the order will spark a trade war, as other countries retaliate with tariffs on American goods. The threat of escalating tensions with key trading partners looms large, raising concerns about the stability of international markets and the future of American exports. This, they argue, would harm the very economy the order aims to help, potentially leading to job losses in other sectors and increased prices for consumers across the board. Economic analysts caution that a trade war could trigger a domino effect, impacting industries far beyond auto manufacturing and putting additional strain on American families. Additionally, critics question whether the American workforce, which has shifted away from manufacturing jobs in recent decades, is equipped to meet the demands of such a rapid increase in domestic production. They point to the need for retraining programs and investment in education to ensure workers are prepared for the challenges ahead, warning that without these measures, the policy could fall short of its ambitious goals. The executive order has sent shockwaves through the global auto industry, shaking the very foundation of how international carmakers operate within the United States. Overnight, what was once a stable and lucrative market has become a landscape of uncertainty and urgent decision-making. Foreign carmakers who have invested billions in building extensive manufacturing operations across the United States now face a difficult choice: adapt to the new rules, or consider retreating from a market that has long been central to their global strategies. Companies like Toyota, BMW, and Volkswagen, which have become household names in America, have long relied on a carefully balanced mix of domestic and foreign production to keep costs down and quality high. Now, these automakers must urgently reevaluate their strategies for the American market, weighing the risks and rewards of staying versus leaving. For these companies, the United States represents not just a significant portion of their global sales, but also a key driver of innovation and brand prestige. Losing access to this massive and influential market is simply not an option for most, as it would mean forfeiting years of investment and hard-won customer loyalty. However, transitioning to 100% US-based production in a short time frame presents a monumental challenge, requiring rapid changes to manufacturing processes and supply networks. These companies must grapple with potentially higher labor costs, as American wages and benefits often exceed those in other countries where they currently operate. The need to reconfigure complex supply chains adds another layer of difficulty, as parts and components sourced from around the world must now be replaced or rerouted to comply with new regulations. On top of that, automakers face the uncertainty of navigating a new and potentially volatile regulatory landscape, with rules that could change as political winds shift. Some experts believe that foreign automakers will have no choice but to comply with the order, even if it means accepting lower profit margins and making tough decisions about their future in the US. Accepting slimmer profits may be the price to pay for continued access to American consumers, who remain among the most valuable in the world. Analysts argue that the US market is simply too important to abandon, given its size, influence, and the role it plays in shaping global automotive trends. As a result, many believe companies will find creative ways to adapt, whether by investing in automation, renegotiating supplier contracts, or streamlining operations to offset rising costs. Inevitably, some of these increased costs may be passed on to consumers, leading to higher prices at the dealership and potentially changing what cars Americans can afford. Others, however, are not so optimistic about the future. They warn that the challenges may be too great for some companies to overcome. These experts predict that some foreign automakers may choose to scale back their US operations, reducing investment and cutting jobs, or even withdraw from the market altogether if the costs of compliance prove too high, and the risks outweigh the rewards. Such moves would have a ripple effect throughout the industry, disrupting not only car makers but also the vast network of suppliers, dealers, and service providers that depend on them. This could potentially lead to job losses not just in foreign-owned factories, but also in American companies that supply them with parts, technology, and services. The stakes are high, and the uncertainty is palpable, as workers, executives, and communities brace for what comes next. The decisions made by these global giants in the coming months will have a profound and lasting impact on the future of the American auto industry, shaping not only the cars we drive but also the livelihoods of millions across the country. While foreign automakers grapple with uncertainty, American manufacturers like Ford and General Motors are presented with a unique opportunity. The executive order, if successful, could be a boon for these companies, potentially leading to increased market share and a surge in demand for their vehicles. For decades, American automakers have struggled to compete with their foreign counterparts, facing challenges from cheaper imports, changing consumer preferences, and the rise of new technologies. The executive order, with its focus on boosting domestic manufacturing, could provide them with a much-needed lifeline, allowing them to recapture market share and invest in innovation. However, it's not a guaranteed win for American manufacturers. They too will face challenges in scaling up production to meet the increased demand. Finding qualified workers, securing raw materials, and expanding manufacturing capacity are all significant hurdles they must overcome. Furthermore, the potential for higher costs due to a shift to 100% domestic production could make American cars less competitive on price, even with the absence of foreign competition. The success of American automakers in this new landscape will depend on their ability to adapt quickly, innovate efficiently, and deliver vehicles that can compete on both price and quality. As news of the executive order travels beyond America's borders, the global auto industry braces for impact. Stock footage of international newsrooms, bustling auto factories in Germany, Japan, and South Korea, and busy shipping ports paints a picture of a world suddenly on edge. International automakers, many of whom have invested billions in the US market, now face difficult choices. Should they shift production to meet new requirements or redirect their focus to other regions? Industry analysts and world leaders voice both concern and curiosity as uncertainty ripples through stock markets and trade negotiations. In Europe and Asia, governments call emergency meetings with auto executives, seeking ways to protect domestic jobs and maintain export levels. Meanwhile, global supply chains, finely tuned over decades, are thrown into question. Raw materials, components, and finished vehicles may soon follow new routes, redrawing the map of the international auto trade. The The world watches closely, weighing the long-term implications. Will other countries respond with their own protectionist policies? Or could this moment spark a new wave of innovation and competition across the global automotive landscape? One thing is clear: America's bold move is sending shockwaves far beyond its own borders, forcing the entire industry to adapt, innovate, and rethink the road ahead. As the dust settles after America's bold move, industry experts and futurists begin to map out what lies ahead for the American auto industry. Will this be the dawn of a new golden age, or a challenging road full of unexpected turns? Cut to animated graphics, futuristic assembly lines, electric vehicles gliding silently along highways, and concept cars featuring advanced AI and green technology. Stock footage of engineers collaborating in high-tech labs, and designers sketching tomorrow's vehicles. Voice of an automotive analyst? This could be the moment the US reclaims its place as a global leader in automotive innovation, if companies are willing to invest in cleaner, smarter vehicles. Overlay interviews with experts predicting a surge in electric and autonomous vehicle development as American automakers race to stay ahead of global competition. Scenes of bustling research centers, battery factories, and bustling city streets filled with next-generation vehicles, but there's an undercurrent of caution. Another expert warns, success isn't guaranteed. Companies must adapt quickly, retrain their workforce, and navigate a complex global landscape. The next few years will test the industry's resolve and creativity. Visuals shift to a blend of optimism and uncertainty, American flags waving over modern factories, but also graphs showing fluctuating market trends. Pause 1S. The future is unwritten, but one thing is certain: the decisions made today will shape the cars we drive and the world we live in for generations to come. Fade out on a sunrise over a city skyline, electric cars humming along the roads below as the music swells with possibility and resolve.